Hello and welcome to another Not Chilly podcast. So it's now 2020, and this is actually a podcast we recorded last year, and I think we even mentioned it in the podcast that it's like 6 months ago. In 6 months this is going to be released. But you know, I've kind of had an up and down time, so I'm just kind of happy to kind of go back to the foundations of why I created this podcast in the first place. Now, I love podcasting and I do really enjoy it. Maybe the editing process is a bit slow and cumbersome, but one of the main reasons why I did it was just to kind of open up and to do things and to chat to people, and kind of it's a bit of selfishly motivated in that it's arguably something I was kind of being a bit of a recluse about, and something I was choosing not to do because I was a little bit too closed off. And now that I'm kind of opening these floodgates and opening these doors a little bit, and I kind of had a really good rhythm, but it started to become a bit of a, how do I describe it, like a system, which is, you know, arguably a really good thing. So, you know, routine and stuff is really important, and I kind of want to keep that. But I kind of forgot the fact that this is a selfish project that I'm doing for my own self-love, and I don't necessarily need to be perfect with it. It's like doing not that this is like art, but if it's like doing a painting, you know, if you're doing it just for other people, then maybe that's not the best reason for this particular thing. Because obviously if it was a business model and I needed to, if I wanted to garner a huge audience, which, you know, would be awesome, but I'm not hoping for it or planning for it, then of course, then there would be used to be, you know, like really methodical with this, but this is kind of a self-love thing. So it's been a bit broken. It is going to probably still be a bit broken, but I'm going to release episodes when I can, and yeah, when I feel up to it. And if I hit a good rhythm and a good stride, I'm going to do that, and I'm going to try to keep that going. If things start to pick up with it, then I will take advantage of that and I will make more of it. But balancing life, balancing everything around, it's just, you know, makes it a little bit harder to make that kind of stuff happen in a rhythm. But yeah, so sorry for all the people I tried to connect with that I didn't get to. I will hopefully try to, if anyone is still willing to participate. But otherwise, I, you know, love making it simple. I love, you know, hanging out with particular Josh because he tends to always be available, and also because he's awesome. And yeah, so I'm going to do that more. So that's just kind of a bit of a heads up. I did record a podcast this year, at the beginning of this year, and I'm going to keep recording some more and more. So it's not that this is going to come to a halt. I just want to get out some of the stuff that I recorded last year, because there's actually a few of them that just sat in the back burner for a while. This one is actually technically a part 2. Avengers Endgame. Me and Josh, one of the first podcasts, if not the first podcast we did, was Avengers Infinity War. And this is kind of, we had a lot of feedback and worries and concerns in that podcast. And so this one is kind of a resurgence into that podcast. And so what happened when they released the Endgame? What did we think about it? How did they deal with what the things that we were bothered about? So yeah, sit back and enjoy. And thank you for being a part of this. And thank you for, you know, participating in whichever way you do and whichever way you can. It's more helpful than you might realize. Anyway, thank you very much. Enjoy. Until the next one. Feels like it's been ages since we've done one of these.
It has been. It hasn't been like 4 months.
Really?
Surely. January? February? I don't know, though, because I have to be honest, like, March and April felt like a fucking eternity.
Yeah, well, I also just remembered that, like, we did the Star Wars ones, which we've recorded, but we're not outputting it yet. That's really exciting.
Yeah, that's cool. Covered off the whole OT. That's good.
Yes, the original series. Yeah. I'm excited to release those. I'm excited to record more, though. Like, record the next batch. And, because there's, like, it gets interesting from here on in. Because, like, original series, you know, everyone can agree that it's good and everyone's going to have a good time, but then, you know.
Yeah, I think the prequels will be the most exciting, by far. There's so, yeah.
Yeah,
you know,
because there's a lot of controversy.
Yeah, and I mean, it's like we even ended up when we did Return of the Jedi one, we talked a lot about the prequels. Because it's just that thing of like we can't unlink them anymore. They're just so intertwined.
Yeah, can't wait to get to the Endgame of the Star Wars things that we're watching.
I was just thinking, like, how is the Lucasfilm side of Disney going to handle exactly what we saw today? It's like,
Oh yeah, that's a good call.
it's the same thing, right? Like they're supposed to be doing the same thing with Episode 9, and yeah. I mean, the main difference is like there's never been a 3-hour Star Wars, so I just don't know. I'm just hoping that they do something like that. I really hope that they. Because otherwise they're going to do the normal Star Wars thing, and then we're really going to be looking at like 2 hours and 10 minutes, and I really hope they make it 50 minutes longer than that.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's got so much to crunch in, and it's kind of like that last. I mean, all of them are just. I mean, we're not going to talk about Star Wars. There's going to be a whole podcast episode devoted to those Star Wars films each.
So how long has that been since Infinity War?
Pretty much a year.
Was it?
Because that was the first podcast we did.
Oh, all right. Oh, it was
Infinity War, and so that's what I really love about this. It's like it's been a year since the last season. We did Infinity War, and now we had a lot to say in Infinity War, and now we can finally like see
it's
what's
over.
True, it is.
It's pretty weird.
What does it mean that it's over? Do you think it actually like those whole signatures? Oh, by the way, spoilers, everyone.
Yeah, don't go anywhere near this if you haven't seen it, because
this is pretty spoiler rich.
I'm shocked that it wasn't that nothing had been spoiled for me in the time going into it. I wouldn't have been heartbroken, but I certainly expected something. I certainly expected to go in knowing who would die.
Yeah, or at least that whether everyone would come back or not. Like I wasn't sure if that was going to be a thing, which is one of the things that we're gonna talk about.
It's kind of funny because I felt that going into it, my expectations were they would bring everyone back, but it would cost
something great, something like the loss of all, like, or something.
100% thought it was Tony Stark. Like, I was like, okay, the cost is going to be Tony Stark because I know he's not making any more of these movies, and it will be fitting, right? He's the beginning, he should be the end. And
I thought he was going to die quicker. I thought he was going to die right at the beginning.
I thought he was going to die sooner as well. Anyway, so I suspected that. I kind of, to me, it was more about how things were played out versus what actually played out. And, I think overwhelmingly, what I kept thinking watching this movie was like, God, I wish every Marvel film had been like this. That was just my overwhelming feeling. Was just I was feeling in this film so much more than I had ever felt in a Marvel film. And I know that a lot of that is because, I mean, for me in particular, it's like I really enjoyed. Captain America, he's been my favorite character in the whole series, and it's like a chapter coming to a close. It's like when Lord of the Rings finished, or I'm not comparing the films by the way, I'm just talking about the emotional journey. It's like Lord of the Rings finishing, or the Star Wars prequels finishing. Whenever a big series comes to a close, it also, for me anyway, I think it like causes sort of like self-reflection. It's sort of like, where was I when this started? I was working in a video store and in 2008 and last year of uni, like that's where this started.
Yeah, what did we do with this? Where was I? When did it start?
2008, yeah.
2008, geez. I would have just met my current girlfriend.
Yep.
So I would have just finished uni. Or no, it would have been just before.
Still been in last year of uni.
Oh my God, that's such a long time ago. I would have been just getting into the film industry.
Yeah.
Holy shit. That's a big deal.
So I think there's a lot of that type of emotion is wrapped up in it as well, as opposed to just purely like for the characters and things like that. So I think that's kind of like a weird thing. But there's stuff for the characters, right? I've always loved Thor. I think that Chris Hemsworth nailed that, and love what they did with him in this one. Like Fat Thor was just what a great way to turn upside down, that whole, and to express what happens to Thor when he does truly go off the rails, when everything just collapses, and that he has to acknowledge that he can fail. And, unfortunately in this film, there's not really enough time to to truly explore that. You can have it's done in vignettes, right? It's done in like little bits and pieces. But I guess I didn't expect anything more from it on that front.
Yeah.
Given the number of characters that they needed to crowbar in.
And you made a good point about that. You were saying that like they seem to have kept the storylines more detailed and given more emotional story arcs to characters that were going. That they weren't going to
definitely, yeah.
Because I felt like obviously Thor had his whole thing, and he had his even the moment with his mom. Then they had Hawkeye and Scarlet. Not what's her name? Black Widow.
Black Widow. Yeah.
Yeah, that was an awesome story arc, and
yeah, and I think that Black Widow often was sort of a character. I found it like people would joke about her kind of. Everyone here is like these awesome people, and she's just like some
human with a gun. Yeah.
And I always found the inverse with her. Like I have my ups and downs with how I feel about Scarlett Johansson. I think she's one of those actors who can either like be completely flat in one thing, and then she can be just extraordinary in another thing. I find her to be
that's fair to say.
Kind of inconsistent. But not lacking talent, obviously, but inconsistent in how she deploys that. It's maybe it's like if she isn't feeling it for a film or something, she's just like whatever.
Yeah.
But I always felt that Black Widow was a character that she like put quite a bit into, and I always felt that she was actually a reminder of how brave the character was, because you're watching her in contrast to all these people who can do all this stuff because they are superheroes, and she's naked, right? Like she doesn't have all this cool stuff, and she doesn't have any powers.
She can't be punched through a wall, or she can't.
Yeah, she has her intelligence, and she has her physical abilities, and she does really brave things through the whole thing. So I thought that it was really good that in the Soul Stone aspect of the film that I was wondering who would go, and I actually thought it would be Captain America with someone, right? But Captain America had to be with Tony Stark throughout the film to make certain emotional beats happen.
Yep.
And because of Red Skull, right? Because Red Skull is at the Soul Stone, so I thought that would be fitting that so I was quite pleased that they didn't go that way, and that it was her. And I think that like the weight of that, I think, was sort of owed to a character who, like, what else can she do? And that if you're a character who has detached yourself from everything your whole life, it doesn't make any sense. Like when Hawkeye is like, no, I'll do it.
Yeah, I was thinking
on any level, you're just standing there going, dude, you
have a family.
You have a family. If this works, you're bringing back a family. Like when you look at it objectively, like the weight is not, the scales are in your favor. So you just don't. And that, yeah. So I thought that was amazingly well executed, particularly as we were saying earlier, like in comparison to in Infinity War, where that was just like boom, boom, boom with Gamora. Like it just that just felt like it happened in 3 seconds. And I watched it again recently, and the only reason there was an emotional payoff for me was that I'd seen it before. Yeah. So I had an emulation of those emotions of what I should be feeling, because it was saying, you should be feeling this here. Whereas I didn't really feel it at the cinema. And I was really upset about that, actually.
Oh, I was super bothered by that. I remember the podcast we talked about. I was like, oh, this puts a sour taste in my mouth, because it's such an important... This is the most important person in your life, and you're supposed to throw him off a cliff.
And it's such and it was... Yeah. And I just loved that idea of, like, the what she would hate more than anything is the idea that he loves her, and that then he's willing to sacrifice the thing that he loves most, it's just the thing that you love. You must sacrifice something you love, and so, I just felt that was really not well done in that film versus this one, where it had real
conflict,
weight.
Both of them were fighting for each other's life, and they kept surprising me with the way they were doing it. I didn't know who was going to go in the end. I knew who should go, but I wasn't sure in the end who would actually be successful at killing themselves, which I thought was brilliant. And even up to the end, where it's like, oh, he's off the cliff, I'm like, oh, that's it. and then suddenly there's that extra moment. I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, and then he even could tell that the way she had done it.
Yeah, she'd rigged it.
Yeah. And I was like, oh, that's genius, you know? So I thought that was great and really sweet. And it allowed them to have a sweet moment before and then have a cool little fight scene and then also have that sweet moment at the end before she lets go.
One of the things that's quite amazing, and another reason why they couldn't have, like, say, Captain America there is, like, obviously, you know, in the previous film, he said, you know, one life is too many for us to sacrifice in order to...
Mm-hmm. That's true. He's a little bit too positive, and
whereas these two are like ultra practical characters,
and
also have such a back history, not in the films, but they make note of it, and I think that those two characters definitely throughout the series played off against each other really well. I did think that they were tiny moments,
and when they're both human as well, which is the other
exactly
thing.
Yeah, he has the same sort of thing, and I was, you know, in prep of watching this film, like, I rewatched Infinity War. Ant-Man 2,
Jesus, you did a lot more work than I did.
Ultron. That film is not actually as bad.
Oh, really?
Going back and watching it again, it's not good. But it's just kind of a fucking mess. Is sort of the real thing, and there's a lot of things you just sort of go. Anyway, I was reminded of the interactions between Clint, Hawkeye, and Black Widow. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and, you know...
There's some moments.
I think they did as best that they could. And I think that rewatching them, you know, I've tried as hard as I can to really adjust my point of view on the films in terms of what should they be and what should I expect. And I think that because of the original Iron Man being sort of born in the Dark Knight era, you know, it came out the same year as Dark Knight, and you know, we'd already had Batman Begins before that, and, you know, a few years before, and a couple of years before that we had the rebirth of James Bond, and that was sort of more believable and that kind of stuff. And because Iron Man felt more in that direction, and then as the series progressed, it felt more like a comic book. I think that's where I sort of detached from it, and now when I come back to it, I just sort of... I can ignore the flaws a lot more easily than I felt I could before, just accepting that really what they are is just comic book movies in terms of, you know, what they deal with. Or the main thing I came away with from Endgame is really, I do think that it had a decade's worth of payoff in it. You know, if I really thought of it, I tried to sort of think as like a hardcore fan kind of thing and just think like, would I be happy with this movie? And I just can't see any reason why you wouldn't be. I think
especially if you weren't as into the comics, I'm assuming comic book fans would be like, what, this and this, and they could have done this, and
surely they would have gotten over that like a long time ago, right? They've had like 20 something movies to get used to what Marvel film is doing.
Never underestimate the power of a comic book fan. Right?
And I think that there was a lot of payoff in there. I thought they did a lot of things really, 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 really well. It suffered in ways from just the typical Marvel thing of quick resolutions to problems and things like that. But the thing that I absolutely, without question, was not expecting and was incredibly pleased with was a full hour of just emotional lead up to the second act, and that they really actually spent time on the aftermath. I really thought that would be 20 minutes or something, and they'd just sort of be, oh, okay, whatever. But it was like everything's fallen apart. They go to try and stop him, and then it's really reinforced that there's nothing that can be done. And then the 5 years later, and everyone's off doing their own things, and then it really comes back to the beginning yet again, right? It's like you have to reassemble the Avengers, and you can only do it in part, and then you have to bring everyone back, and once you brought everyone back, you know, they were hoping that would be it, right? And I thought it was really clever. I kept sort of wondering, like, you know, okay, they're going to bring him back, and then how are they going to have a big face-off against Thanos then? Is that everything going to be... And then I thought it was clever. I thought it was clever that they had him realize, and Loki was messing with their plans and things like that.
Well, that was the nice part too. I like that they didn't. It made sense. Like, it felt a bit formulaic, but that every single group of Avengers that went back in time did like have in some way a dilemma.
Yeah,
The plan didn't go to plan, and then I think it was only Ant-Man that was successful. Because he gets the staff in the end. No,
That's when everything starts going to hell.
It was, because even Captain America had the dilemma with meeting himself. But it didn't really, that was...
I can do this all day. I know.
That was great. There was some beautiful moments.
There were some great funny bits in there.
Let me think. I guess, I guess it was nice that they all had a little problem that wasn't all the same, other than the fact that they couldn't get the objective done.
Yeah.
I didn't feel that feeling that I usually feel in... God, can I say feel another time? That I usually feel in Marvel movies, and that's that there was no stakes. I actually enjoyed...
I felt that there was...
Yeah, there was
I
stakes.
really felt there was
Whether
stakes
I felt like everyone was going to die or not, I still felt like, oh my God, like I didn't lose... Not like, what was it, Civil War, which just, for me, was just like garbage. Because I just was like, I know everyone's going to be fine. And someone's going to be slightly hurt.
Yeah. I felt the same with that. I felt the same with most of them. It's just like, and that was the thing that really tired me out. It's like they do so many amazing things with the film, and then it would turn out there was like nothing at stake, because they just fix it with the quickly whatever thing, or just no one would get hurt or die. Even with Civil War, right? I watched that and I was like. You can't have a civil war and have no one that we care about. It's like Rhodey. Yes, Rhodey breaks his back, but so you injure a secondary character,
and then just keep him in a suit. The only time that ever had an effect was, well, as far as like from the movies I've seen, is when he had to crawl out in this movie.
And the only time that you really see any sort of emotional impact of that was, in my opinion anyway, was in Endgame when, what's her name? Nebula says, I wasn't always like this. And he says, me either. But we don't even know if she knows if he's disabled, or, we don't know.
Is he a quadriplegic?
No, he's a paraplegic. So, but there was no payoff in that. Like, there was no threat. So I think that was the oddity in this film, right? Was that this was really the first time in since in a long time that I felt like with things, and I did. Quite often I was in this film. I was just I didn't know what would happen.
I did like how they also treated Captain Marvel. So that's another really tricky one. You introduce the best fighter ever. Yeah, right? It's like she's just going to come in and kill everything. But then she's like, no, she has a whole, galaxy to take care of.
Yeah.
And so she's like, do you think this is only happening here? And then she turns right at the end, which, arguably if you were to look at it, in retrospect, you'd be like, oh yeah, of course she just comes at the end because but then it just made sense. And
they built it up. It's like I'm going to the other side of the universe. So like, you might not hear from me for a while. And then obviously somehow word gets to her, or she knows that Thanos is, whatever on Earth, and she has to go back, and it takes her some
she just
time.
does a great entrance.
Yeah,
I love the whole the cannons.
I was like, what is even? Yeah,
they're firing at all of a sudden.
I said the moon, because in the last one, how Thanos, had the planet crashing.
Yeah, that's right.
But then that's when he had a whole bunch of Infinity Stones.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was like, what the fuck is that? And then the color got bigger, and I was like, oh fuck, Captain Marvel.
Well, that's a good part, right? Because in retrospect you look at that and be like, oh yeah, of course it would have been Captain Marvel. But when watching it, they sucked me in enough that I totally forgot. And I was like, who the fuck is it? A big pile of ships from like some other land that we didn't know? It's like, no, this is one person, and then just rips through the ship, and that's just like,
and that was sweet. And like, as much as I cannot stand Gwyneth Paltrow, but to actually see Pepper Potts finally fucking do something that isn't, standing around, That was sweet to see.
Yeah, she was cool.
An armored suit.
I love that moment towards the end, and it was a nod to women can fight too, and it's like then I think it's when the gauntlet was given to Captain Marvel, and then all the women kind of band up, and it's just like a whole army of basically all the women superheroes, and it's like part of me made me roll my eyes in that like you guys are just going for the like. Look, we're supporting women part, but part of me is also like, yeah, you know what? Fuck it. Like, that's an awesome moment. I think that, like, let's own that moment.
It is cool, but, like, it's, they've made 20-something movies and one of them had a female lead.
Oh, yeah.
It would have been nice if they'd done something that was more with that. Like, it didn't take DC very long to get to Wonder Woman,
That's true.
So,
I guess it's an issue with the industry in general. It's slowly changing.
It is, but I mean, but most of it's based around this utter misconception that women don't
People wouldn't pay to see them.
box office, right?
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
just a complete
Absolutely.
nonsense. And
And I guess arguably Wonder Woman was the one that smashed that out of the park. Not to suggest that no other women had done that before, but when it came to a Marvel movie,
when it came to like a
comic movie.
superhero movie, but like when you look at it from years before, Melissa McCarthy was making comedies that were outgrossing DC and Marvel movies.
Right.
So no, she's not a superhero, but she was a woman.
Oh yeah, there's no excuse
and
for it.
also like not a woman that aligns to anything that society would judge to be, what women should be.
Yeah.
And she was outgrossing them. Whatever you say of the quality of these films, I don't care. I love Melissa McCarthy. She and she's in a lot of shit. But that's something you can't take away from her, and it's just proof that they should have had some women in capes doing awesome shit a lot earlier.
I could go through IMDb and just go like how many women film it with women in it. It's got nothing to do with the sex of the person as much as it's got to do with how good the writing was, how good the directing was, and also obviously the acting needed to be helped. But it's not got anything to do with the gender.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that sometimes it does. I mean, like you can alienate, half the population by repeatedly not, having characters they identify with it and all that kind of stuff. So, I don't think the gender's like something that's out of the question. It's just that you can't say women,
Can't do it.
can't gross films. It's a lot of bullshit.
And the other thing,
I do think that and I'll be honest, like I really have felt that Marvel's like had to get it, just seems to have gotten away with that scot-free. I don't know why, and I don't think that I'm ignorant to it. I just don't think that there's been a mainstream like, where are all the women in Marvel?
Yeah, that's a good point. I didn't think of it that way.
And after
Black Widow.
Black Widow was dead in this. It's like, that was noticeable. That was, honest to God, I wasn't being SJW or whatever, like
SJW?
social justice warrior.
Oh yeah.
I wasn't going out of my way. It's like when they all came back and they were there in the base and they were talking about what happened. There was a real registration of like, fuck, it is such a dude's club.
Oh yeah, totally.
This is such a boys' club. So that was a thing. I know we're meandering all over the place with this, but yeah, that it didn't go unnoticed to me. And the one thing I have really noticed was that when she was first introduced, and I'm trying to remember the character's name now, but
The one that does all the red weird telekinesis stuff.
Yeah.
Oh man, I don't know because I've never heard of her till Marvel movies.
Crazy. And anyway, she was just she was so. Because she was meant to be from the city that they destroy at the end, she and her twin brother have been enhanced, and they're called enhanced because they weren't allowed to say mutant at the time. She was kind of rubbish, I felt, in that film, and then they sort of progressively made her like really awesome.
Yeah, true.
By the time you got to this film, like by the time she's in Endgame, you go, "Oh, she's so badass."
Yeah.
And then in this film, she really actually finally got to do some cool shit. And I just, I don't even know who you are. You will.
Yeah.
It's just like that was a
cool.
fucking great line. And then she's like just smashing him and doing all this sort of stuff. And it's like, no, okay. As it turns out, he won't ever know who she was. But the fact is, before he died, he knew that she was someone that could kick his ass.
Yeah, that's
Could
right.
strip his armor from him.
That was
and that he
cool.
had to call in an entire artillery strike to stop it.
Yeah, true.
You know, so I thought that was really well paid off. There was a lot of really good bits like that, and I really loved how they really tapped basically every single character that they possibly could, right? Because Jarvis is dead. Black Widow is dead. So they can't bring them in. But it was really cool to see how it was just this like almost Ready Player One level of like, let's bring in all the franchises. And they really pulled that off. So that final battle was really, really, really sweet.
I'm also happy that final battle wasn't an hour long. I'm really happy that they kind of that was the right length of time, because they could have easily stretched that. Because I mean, it would have just been special effects budget, woo woo woo, and it was actually like, no, we don't need to tell the story this much. Like, how much story is there? We need to beat Thanos. How are we going to do that? We're going to start with not a lot of people beating Thanos, and then Thanos is going to bring out the big guns, and then we're going to bring out the bigger guns, and that's all. That's the story that could be told in a few minutes.
That battle really was well done, and then you sort of just. It's always so strange because when you think of it in terms of like plotting, Doctor Strange, for example, has to know how it ends, right? He does know how it ends.
Well, he knows one of the chances of how it'll end. Yeah.
Well,
that's the only thing he gives away. Is like there's one.
But he's pretty sure 1 in 14 million. Yeah, and he's like this. He's pretty sure that it's the only one, and then it reaches the point where he knows that it is.
And he gives Stark the nod.
And he's like, yep, you need to kill yourself.
Yeah.
And, but it's that thing of like, he's walking around just being like, God, I know the fucking ending to this story. And it's just interesting to think of different perspectives of it, of sort of like, if you know what's going to happen, how much do you just have to go through the motions of letting time play out until what has to happen happens?
Yeah, I did like
kind of like at the start of the thing, he could have just been like, "Oh, dude, put on the put on the gauntlet and just click your fingers because that's what's going to happen anyway."
Yeah, well, that's true, and I did like how I forgot the character's name, the lady in New York, the Master. Yeah.
I remember her name.
I like that the only time she flinches is when she realizes that Doctor Strange says like he gave away the stone.
Yeah, I mean, Tilda Swinton is an amazing actress, and I don't know why I was particularly sort of like, oh, that was really good acting. But her transition there, and transitions are clunky a lot of the time with actors, where they go from one extreme, because she goes from quite arrogant, absolutely certain, all that kind of stuff. So she goes from that to being completely oh, fuck.
Yeah.
And yet, you know, the thing that's quite interesting is that there's still a bit of arrogance in that, because it means that she has to be absolutely sure that the way that she interprets it, right, is that Doctor Strange did the right thing and she was wrong to deny Bruce the stone. Another interpretation of it could have been, I chose Doctor Strange incorrectly.
Yeah.
But she doesn't.
She doesn't go that way.
She doesn't question that choice. She questions her other choice. So I think it's a great scene though. And as far as obstacles go, that's an interesting one. That's so much more interesting. And I'm sure that when they were writing it, they had this exact conversation. You know, what are we going to have Bruce Banner come up against? I don't know. You know, at some point it would have been, oh, Hulk beats the shit out of this and blah blah blah.
Or he has to verse himself.
Yeah, like how do you make it really interesting? Fuck, make it a completely intellectual exercise, intellectual and emotional exercise, primarily intellectual. Do not make it a physical fight, because we know the outcome with Hulk, right? It's like he's this terrifying, unkillable force, and so I think that that was such a good decision, and it was really cool. The same way that Spider-Man: Homecoming sort of gave you a different angle of the events of the original Avengers, you know, when you're seeing them scrapping everything after the battle and all that kind of stuff. It gave you a really interesting perspective on, oh, she was here just taking out extra bits and pieces as she could because, you know, their time hadn't come, so they weren't going to do a big fight.
She was just defending the building.
Exactly.
Which had all the, you know, artifacts or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she was there with an Infinity Stone.
And also, she knew the timeline.
Yeah.
She already said, like, I'm going to, like, Doctor Strange is 5 blocks away and he's not going to be here till 4 years or something, or whatever she said. And so she obviously saw the timeline. So I guess she didn't see far enough. But then she must have seen it to the point where Thanos clicks his fingers and still thought this was the better outcome.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is interesting.
It was cool. Like, a lot of it was really well done. And as far as like time traveling sort of
I was about to get into that.
films go, I thought that it was really well done how they played on, oh, we're gonna go back to all the films that you love. And I never felt that I was being
it wasn't gimmicky.
I wasn't being nostalgically taken advantage of.
I agree.
It never felt gimmicky to me. It
almost though. Right at that first shot where you see like that famous shot from Infinity War.
Oh yeah.
No, sorry, not
from just the Avengers. Yeah,
the Avengers. Yeah, that's right. That was like, I was like, oh god, here we go. We're going to see this from a different angle, and then suddenly they went into like completely different fights, and I was like, oh, that's cool. Yeah, I wanted to see Loki being smashed.
Just one more time.
Yeah. Because I thought that would be like a funny little like add-on. But I will say that I I'm a stickler for science, and I'm a stickler for time travel shit. I love doing time travel stuff, and I feel like they kind of I wanted them to have more consequences, and that's just me being a stickler. Like it's
the god of thunder, the big green man, the
one thing I really do like though,
the Ant-Man,
is when Thor meets his mum. And I thought like, oh, this is gonna fuck the timeline, right? Because he's gonna be like, you're gonna die, and she's like, don't tell me what happens. It's not my place. I love that she was like almost in tune with exactly what was going on, and she knew that this was a future version of her son, and that this is how he was going to end up. And I thought that was a nice version of taking advantage of the timeline. I don't like. There was something about the flimsiness in some aspects which made me just go, oh, like for example, everything should have consequences, and I wonder how detailed they went into that. He took the vials from the 60s or whatever. 70s, yeah. So he took the vials from there, and you go, okay, so are we down a few vials somewhere else? Is there somewhere in the timeline where those vials disappeared?
Oh, for sure. I mean, but there's like, so the biggest plot hole that I noticed was that how come the only time that Nebula isn't linked to the other Nebula and projecting the thing is when Gamora is like, oh, I'm going to help you fight, which is one of the most pivotal points in the entire
Wait, say that again?
timeline.
Let me.
So you know how like at every worst case scenario, like the Nebula is connecting to her past self.
Yeah.
And projecting what's going on. How come the only time that she doesn't seem to record something and transmit it to the other Nebula is when Gamora comes to her and is like, oh, tell me what happens. Oh shit, I better fight with you.
I thought that. Because I think the transmission happens when someone like interrupts, not when it like, because she caught the future Nebula at a time where the other Nebula was already in the battle, and so she was like, this Nebula was just basically left to rot while the other one was doing the deed. So I don't think she had an opportunity to like.
I don't know. It felt like there was some kind of fire, whatever. Like that was the only kind of overlook thing. I just sort of thought, yeah, I would have just put a tiny line in there, sort of like, oh, let's disable this thing in your head first.
Yeah, okay.
Like just do something like that, because I know that that's a really nitpicky, but I just sort of thought that was kind of the only. I'm sure there's a million. I'm really bad, by the way, at picking up plot holes. I'm so all in for that whole, like, just let the creators take you on a ride.
I got one for you though. This is pretty nitpicky. Thor goes back in time to go to Asgard, talks to his mum, recalls the hammer, and goes to the future, right?
I totally agree. So how come, so where does the hammer go in that timeline?
And then the only explanation I have is, should I go back and watch Thor when he loses the hammer, because he's not good enough? Is that timeline match with Thor getting the hammer then and disappearing with it? And then maybe, no, because he keeps the hammer
Because what's her name? Whatever Natalie Portman's character's name is, she's already in Asgard.
Yeah, right. Okay. So that for me was like cool. I love that like suddenly what's his name? Captain America could use the hammer. I thought that was a cool little like you
and you know that's like a payoff from Age of Ultron, right?
Yeah, when he's trying to pull that out.
And it just
shifts
a very tiny bit and Thor's like ooh.
Yeah, cool. Well, I mean, and also that point that hammer is his life. You know, like it's baby, and so yeah.
Well, he has that arrogance around. He's the only one who's worthy to pick it up.
Yeah,
that's all that it's about. And it's quite funny because it's like that's such a mystical, bullshitty kind of thing to say. Quite sort of like you'd have to believe in gods to believe in that type of thing. But that is how it works.
Yeah,
and you have to be worthy to pick it up. And it was just that was fucking sweet to see Captain America use Mjolnir. Was awesome. That was really sweet.
And it's a testament to his character, right? He's basically the hero. Like he's the unbreakable, doing everything for the good reasons. Even throughout all the films, he's always about the people.
Yeah.
And so like he's worthy of that at the end. He's proved himself. I thought that was fantastic.
Exactly. I think that he's done enough to show it. Such a good character. Like that's a I'll miss him being Captain America.
He was a perfect Captain America.
Yeah. I love Chris Evans.
But so was Robbie. I think Robert Downey Jr. was a perfect freaking Iron Man.
Unquestionably.
Yeah.
He was.
Was there a bad chosen character? I didn't really like. I obviously read a little bit of Iron Man, a little bit of Captain America, enough to know.
Oh, in those terms, I don't know because I haven't read enough of them. In terms of what? In terms of how I think they went, I think that they were good.
Yeah.
I think that the casting was, all around pretty good. There's just in a cast that basically ends up being like 30 people.
Yeah. Holy
there's gonna be people you don't like. I don't like Chris Pratt. That's just,
not your jam.
Oh, he used to be, but I haven't liked his turns in terms of like.
I liked him in the first Guardians of the Galaxy. I didn't really like him from that point onwards, but not because I hate him as an actor, but just I didn't really get into his roles after that. But it's the first one I thought was like it suited him really well. I thought he had the right
I didn't like him
for it.
That was probably the first role that I didn't like him in, to be honest. Although I don't think he was he was in Zero Dark 30 as well as one of the SEALs. Navy SEAls.
I was going to say
I didn't. I thought he was okay in that, and again, it was sort of like trying to make him a little bit jokey, and you're like, "This is about killing fucking Osama bin Laden." Let's, dude, be in this film.
I will say that like now to talk about things that kind of irked me a bit. That first scene I was talking to you about, I felt like they could have had a Pixar moment where the first like 10 minutes of the movie is like a heart wrencher because we all knew what happened. You see Hawkeye, you see the kids, the kids are going to disappear. That's exactly what's about to happen. But they could have done it in a way that made you just go, oh. I feel like they missed that opportunity, but
I think they missed the opportunity. But I do again, like I think it's kind of weird. Like I think it's one of those things where they want it to be accessible to kids and. Weirdly, they're willing to show people get decapitated, but not, feel
not people,
the loss
right?
Of
Thanos is like the only person who gets decapitated.
Yeah, I know. I still just think it's like I just think back to sort of the films that we watched when we were kids, and they like totally emotionally fucked you up. Like even if you look at like Land Before Time, when the mum dies and all that kind of stuff, like it was just traumatic.
At Pixar. Right? Like so many of them movies.
100%. And they go there. They fully go there. Like that opening I remember when I went to see Up at the cinema and I picked kind of like what we did today. I haven't seen a matinee in so long. And so you go for like a morning thing sort of thinking it's going to be empty, but of course there's going to be fucking...
Fuck me. I got to talk about that. Yeah. Anyway.
I think... Anyway, so I was...
You went and saw Up.
Yeah, we were sitting there watching it, and then when she gets to the hospital and finds out that she's
Baron.
Baron.
Yeah.
like just this kid just starts wailing, and it's that thing of like, you could hear kind of the kid was upset about what was happening on the screen. The kid wasn't just having a random,
it was timed.
and you just sort of went, fuck, like they cannot understand what's happening.
Not to the same depth that we can, that's for sure.
But they know these people are very sad.
Yeah.
For some reason, and therefore they are going to cry. They understand the tone of what's happening in the room. And that to me has always been a shocking, like, that's always shocked me, that opening to
I don't know. I might choke on my own words if I ever have a kid, but I feel like I like that. I don't think you should go and like show your kid what a slaughterhouse looks like, but I also think that like giving your child and like emotional intelligence moments where they can be
I totally agree with it. But also
maybe at a certain age, by the way, like,
But the primary thing was like, it's really hard to explain his character without seeing that. So imagine that doesn't happen.
Yeah, and then we just met him in Japan or whatever.
Why is he such a grumpy fuckhead?
Yeah.
Like, that's, it's not, it just doesn't work. So I think that was an effective way of them quickly getting it across.
But they didn't do it quickly, and they could have done it more intensely. They could have broken him a bit, which would have...
It could have been a flashback later in the film, too, and then it would have disjointed the film, right? You would have thought this guy was a dick for the first half, then seen the flashback, then had the context, and then felt differently about him.
But I think that's unnecessary. I think that the way they did it was right they did it like in the correct sequence. I just think that, could you imagine if he really got ripped to shreds? If we saw the moment, not just when he's like, where is everyone? We saw the moment after that. And then the next time we saw him, he was in Japan and he was just murdering people like a monster. And then the next time we properly engage with him is when he's going to kill himself because he's like, I've got fucking nothing to live for because I'm a monster. I think that would have been, that last moment would have been more effective if that first moment we saw him break.
Effectively, they could have done what they did with Ragnarok, right? Like Mark Ruffalo has not had, in this entire franchise, at no point was he given a film. Mm-hmm. Right? Thor Ragnarok was the closest thing, right? And I think that is going to be the most that you'll ever see of, Hulk. Mm-hmm. They kind of could have done that a bit with Hawkeye in this one. It could have been he could have been a bit more of the engine or a bit more of the fuel in the engine, in terms of momentum. And he is expositionally that, but emotionally, I don't think. Yeah, I agree. I think that on an emotional level, I don't think that they have the same. I just don't think that that's emotionally a place that they would be willing to go to for the first 10 minutes of their film.
Can I also just say, it didn't ruin the film for me in the same way that the Infinity War, I really hated that moment with Gamora?
Yeah.
Where she dies, where she gets killed by Thanos. It didn't ruin the film for me in that kind of way. It was just like, I just felt, while watching it, I was like, I know exactly what you're trying to do. I know what this emotional beat is. And I was like, I felt like I could have been, my heart could have been wrenched in this moment, and you didn't take that opportunity. But I was okay with it. I was like, that's fine, keep going. And the one thing that I will say that I did like about all of their arcs in the similar vein is that I would love to rewatch it and then break this down a little bit more intelligently. But I also felt like each character had a different way of coping, different experience with the pain of losing everyone. So that he obviously had the pain of anger, and he just basically, I'm going to go kill anything that's bad, what I consider bad. You have Scarlett Johansson kind of went into a numbness state. The Hulk went into I'm going to control this, and he kind of tried to control his world. Captain America, of course, went into I'm going to help people.
Yep.
Tony Stark went into oblivion, this everything's over, I don't want to give a shit anymore, everything I gave met with no reward. Shit, is that all of them? There's so many more, but I'm just trying to think of the main. And I did say Thor already. Obviously Thor went into his gluttonous kind of alcoholic, almost addictive
in New Asgard.
destruction. I guess that's the question, right? It's the destructiveness. He turned and destroyed himself for his actions. And they even say it in the film, they go, we all have reasons to feel guilty and feel, bad about this. Like, it's not just Thor, it's not just anyone. Everyone felt, obviously Thor missed that one strike, which could have changed the whole game. But I imagine that throughout the Infinity War, there was moments where each one of them could have had that moment, but they didn't get to take that opportunity. Yeah.
I think you're right. There was an interesting way of looking at how each character, responded to what happened. And that was really well done. Again, that opening hour was we just haven't seen that in a single Marvel film. And by the way, I think I really didn't like Iron Man 3. And
I was just about to quote that. Say that was probably the one exception to the rule.
I know that they quasi-try. I just don't think they pulled it off. I know that's what that film is supposedly doing, but I never felt that it was doing it. And I wish that film had been more effective, because it would have been exactly like this, the opening hour of this one. The whole point of that film was meant to be dealing with post-traumatic, stress. And
I think they got it a little bit. I think there was something in his unwieldy hesitation to do what is good. Like, he's just avoiding. His avoidance, I think, was really good in the third Iron Man movie. But I do feel like his trauma didn't meet his actions. I think that when you're that traumatized by what you experienced, then you in the height of where you think someone would succeed, that's when they would fail. That's when the pressure is built. That's when you would crumble, not when little things happen and you're like, oh, can you be Iron Man? It's like, oh, I'm crumbling. It'll be when he's got to do his final punch into the person that's doing all the damage, and suddenly he can't fucking do it because all he can think about is how this could start another universal war or whatever.
And the final fight wasn't emotion. That's exactly it. It's it wasn't emotional. It was just a whole bunch of robots beating the shit out of a bunch of, I don't fucking remember what it was.
Well, it was about Pepper Potts, though. That was the whole point of the fight, which had an emotional beginning, but once again, it suffered from the Marvel thing, which is we're going to spend a quarter of this film doing a fight scene, rather than sharing that quarter with the film with an emotional aspect, like they did in this one, and then and shortening the fight scene because we don't need the spectacle as much.
Yeah, exactly, and that's a key disappointment of that film. It was just tonally, it was all over the fucking shop, because it was written by Shane Black. So
who's that?
He wrote and directed Kiss Kiss Bang Bang.
Oh, that was a good movie.
That's a great film.
I love that movie. Yeah.
But he also made the most recent Predator movie, so wrote and directed. So I think
that almost did okay for me.
Oh,
I mean, we should do a talk about it.
We are definitely rewatching that film and fucking talk about that.
I'm not
going to talk about it.
Yeah, let's not talk about it now. No, you're right.
It's fucking atrocious.
To change topics then, I thought it would be really funny to think of this film from a set design and costume design perspective. Because I remember there was a moment where they go back into the Avengers movie, and just imagine being like, this is the newest costume, and this is the costume we came up with to begin with, and being like, God, they seem outdated. Holy shit. And don't get me wrong, I'm sure that they probably had good perspectives on it. At the time, this looked badass, but it's amazing how outdated they feel when they're sitting right next to each other. What was it, 5 years or 6 years difference, and they're still night for day.
7.
The new ones look better.
7 years. Yeah.
7 years, yeah. You think, anyway, I just thought that was brilliant. The choices they've made in the newer films for the costume, just you go, wow, I didn't think about it, but holy shit, these new...
Oh, yeah, they've made tiny little change. I mean, some of them have been huge, Iron Man's suits are really different between each one.
Yeah, true. He's probably gone through every film he kind of evolves in some respects, which is, I think, also technologically.
That's it. He's always meant to be tinkering and tweaking and changing.
And also, I think FX got better.
Oh, for sure.
Throughout the last decade, I think that the special effects.
Yeah, his stuff. I watched Iron Man again. His stuff, a lot of it really stands up. Like,
Oh, really?
yeah, a lot of it stands up.
I wonder how much of it's practical.
None.
Oh, in
The suit?
No, I'm talking about the first Iron Man movie.
Yeah, none.
None, really.
Yeah, Jon Favreau had a big argument with them about it, and they were talking about because basically they had the physical suit, and there was just these issues with it in terms of movement and things like that. And then ILM did a test, and the producers and everyone had to get together, and they did a thing where Jon Favreau had to basically go through all the shots, pointing out which was CG and which one was the
I love this.
ones they'd shot on set, and he got them like almost all wrong apparently, so he couldn't tell the difference. And so he got, because he doesn't like lots of CG stuff. Thing. So yeah, he was just a bit annoyed, but they got rid of them. So yeah,
There you go. That's interesting.
yeah. I didn't know that until ages later.
He's totally in the wrong business to not want to, like, wrong franchise to not want to like CG.
Well, I mean, yeah, he stopped directing after two of them. So
True.
And then when you see what he did after that, he made Chef. So
Yeah, right. Well, I mean, I guess once you've made that, right? You've just got so much money, you're just like rolling in it. You can just do what you want to make, right?
yeah, and you can have Scarlett Johansson be a character in it. And
Really?
you haven't seen Chef?
No, I haven't. No.
So, dude, that is one of the only like completely pure like feel good films. Like, there's no sequence where it's like, oh, this is so dark and blah, blah. Yeah, it's about a chef who like has an amazing restaurant and has one really bad night where he flips out at a reviewer or something like that. And anyway, it all just fucking goes off the rails, and he starts a food truck, and that food truck is how he's divorced, and it's how he's never properly listened to his son. Like, his son is always making clear hints or outright saying, oh, can I come with you today to choose the food for the restaurant? Oh, can I just...
Yeah, right.
He's interested in what he is passionate about, and he is like, it's my work, you'll find it boring, don't worry about it, bye. Like, he doesn't think about it from his son's point of view, and he starts to, and he gets his son working in the food truck and all that type of stuff, and that's what it's about. Like, it's just about people getting back to basics and him reconnecting with his son. It's that's all the film is about.
Weird movie. Could you imagine that on your like CV? Marvel movie. Okay, chef movie.
It's great. It's fucking great. You should watch it. It's a lovely film. Really nice.
Yeah, we'll check it out.
Very enjoyable.
So what else?
It'll make you hungry though, so make sure you've
eaten. Well, that's what we're gonna do. Fucking straight after this.
Yeah.
Shit.
He had like some really good chef who had to because he loves cooking, right? And but he had to have like someone there
doing the cooking.
Yeah, he had to have like a lot of dice training and stuff like that, because he wanted a bunch of close-ups in the film and things like that, and him making things for himself just to eat and stuff. He wanted these sequences in the film to be like, this guy fucking loves food. And yeah, his skills weren't up to scratch.
I think I was listening to Armchair Expert, not a podcast, obviously. If you haven't listened to it, it's awesome. And they were talking, I don't know if it was to Gwyneth Paltrow or it was about Gwyneth Paltrow's
or
sets.
Near Gwyneth Paltrow.
Yeah. And it was about the fact that she, like, her film sets have the best catering. Like, by and far the best, absolute best catering that they've ever had.
Like vaginal detoxifiers and stuff like that.
Well, I mean, whatever, I guess. Or what was that controversy with the beads or the eggs that supposedly they don't do anything, but they've been marketed as something that, yeah.
She's the fucking worst.
I don't know. She seemed like a pretty level-headed person, but...
No, there's like this great website that just has lists of quotes from her. She is fucking detached from reality.
Oh, really?
She is not level-headed.
Do you know what I realized as well? I mean, this is off topic, but I think that when I'm listening to like podcasts with famous people in it, everyone in the industry, other than maybe some like incredibly old people or grumpy comedians, don't belittle anything. It's like everything was like, yeah, I loved you in that. Yeah, I had a great time doing that. Like, then no one goes, yeah, man, but that like gaffer just was a dude.
They're also American. That's a very American thing.
Yeah, right? Okay.
Yeah. Europeans, British, Australians, it's not.
And not that I'm waiting for it. I'm not waiting for like the worst part of a movie, but like it'd be nice to hear like,
I thought it was okay.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I thought it was fine. We got through it. I was a bit off on that day, and I was a bit out of it, and didn't click with the director. I guess you wouldn't say that because you would want more work, right? But
Depends how powerful you are.
yeah, true.
But yeah, Endgame.
And yeah, back to Endgame. I mean, like without going into too much depth of it, like the CGI was great. Nothing was out of place in that. I
About
thought
what
that
you
was pretty
expected.
cool.
I was continued to be incredibly impressed by the Thanos work.
Oh yeah, that was great. I also liked his character in this one too.
Yeah,
Even when he saw himself be killed, I was like, like you could have gone like angry. You could have gone really one dimensional with that.
No,
and he nailed it. Just like that. Yep, this makes sense.
he's that believing in his destiny.
And I love that he almost he critiques himself. I don't mean to be like anti people who believe things, but there was something about his devout belief which took away, which I think in anyone, even a lack of belief, even if you're like a staunch atheist or like a staunch believer in religion, there's always a flaw in not being able to have any grey. And it was seen in one of his lines. I forgot how it went. It was something to the effect of, he was commenting on, it might have been the Avengers and how they have like a belief in hope and how that's going to lead them to destruction or lead them to their demise. And yet he had either just finished or just started talking about his drive to get the stones, and it's like this like one track mind. And I think there's something really like telling about someone who seems incredible, who is like arguably really intelligent and really smart, but also just like so blind to his vision that like he misses out his hypocrisy, which I think once again that's a flaw of people, And I don't at all mean to criticize any like faith or lack of faith or whatever.
No,
anyone who doesn't see a grey.
You need to. That's exactly.
Yeah.
It. Just yes.
Yeah, no matter what you believe.
It's fine to criticize that. People should be. People, it's why you shouldn't follow the word of whatever, because, if you do.
Well, yeah, I think having I know that it defies faith, but having a level of skepticism about everything, even faith, I think I was at a what are they called? Like a Sunday church mass by chance. It's just, was at one of those, and I was listening and the priest, was actually saying something I thought was really cool. He was talking about faith, and he was saying that like, it's important it's not important, but it's human and it's completely fine to have doubts of faith. Like that's like because I think he was talking about people who like have doubts and how people scorn people for that. And I thought that was really refreshing to hear someone go like, yeah, you know what? Like sometimes we have a doubt in faith. Sometimes we don't sit with it, and sometimes we question it. And then, we realign our centers and we go back to what we believe. And I think that was actually kind of like a sweet, like that was a grey in something that is,
Yeah, I think yeah.
Not that this is going to be a religious discussion, but I think that it makes a comment to Thanos and the way that he's so
people should
one
look
direction.
At
and that's their flaw, right? And the same thing, arguably, with the Avengers. We're gonna like Captain America, No Man Left Behind. That his flaw is No Man Left Behind.
If they had just killed, if they had just torn the stone out of Vision,
yeah, that's right,
and none of it would have happened.
Yeah,
that only happened because Iron Man wasn't there. I can't think that Iron Man would agree that Tony Stark would, as in like, I think that Tony Stark would let Vision make that argument. No, we should take it out of my head, and
he would have been on that side,
and he would have been on that side of the argument, wouldn't necessarily gone, let's just fucking kill Vision. I think that he would have let Vision create the argument and then go along with it.
Well, he wanted to not enslave, but entrap the world with the protective shield that was flawed.
Yeah,
Civil War. So I thought that was I thought that's a really cool moment in Thanos. And actually, I've really got to look up one line. This is actually unrelated. This was this one line of the film which I thought was fucking great.
Oh, it'll be related somehow.
I don't know if he said the word gross or like. Man, how does it go? It's something to the effect of like it was Iron Man who said, and he was looking at Captain America, and he's like, "Turns out resentment is gross, and I hate it." And I think there's something really beautifully poetic about talking about how bad resentment is, and then resenting it.
Yeah.
It's in its own discussion, completely unrelated. I just love the hypocrisy, and it was obviously intentional, like because that's when he just goes back into he's figured out the time thing, which once again. Montage! Everyone needs a montage! Hey, could you run the simulation? Oh, I figured it out! You know, like, there's something about that which kind of...
Yeah, I had to get over that a long time with Marvel.
Well, yeah.
It's like, just so often it's, oh no, we have this really big problem. How can it possibly work? Smart person with computer, do that.
Do the simulation! Yeah, I didn't like that. I didn't like...
You know.
I mean, I know that you told me Ant-Man has that... There's that whole thing in Ant-Man where they talk about the quantum realm and stuff like that. But as a nerd, and I'm not even that nerdy about the quantum physics, but for me, it's like, nah, man, that's not like. There's nothing that I know.
I think that you should start more at like the aerodynamics of Iron Man or something far more lower down.
I've seen someone with an Iron Man suit, like not like obviously full Iron Man suit, but the hands and the feet pads, and it works. Like you can do it. It's not as reliable as that is
at the speeds that they're doing,
not at
and
the
the
same
human
speeds.
being can't take the G-forces of what.
Oh yeah,
there
totally.
are far more basic things to
I know,
complain about.
but I'm willing to take those like on the chin. But when you go into the quantum realm,
No.
which by the way doesn't exist, there is no quantum
It does
realm
in the Marvel film.
Yeah, I know. It's just I told you this before. Like I don't.
They don't. It's not like the quantum realm. What they're saying is like
quantum size.
You
It's
make
like
you make yourself so small that basically you get in between time and space.
God, that just burns me. That just doesn't even make sense.
Why?
You can't get so small that you go in between time and space. That's not.
How do you know? What things are subatomic? What do we really know?
Okay, well, let's argue a falsehood, right? If your argument is how do we know, then like how do we know that like
Why are most scientists agnostic?
because you never know.
Because you can't disprove God.
That's right. That's the worst.
So just
argument.
go with the quantum realm.
No, fuck it. I want there to be at least some
No,
explanation.
you accepted the God of Thunder in the fucking film. You can accept there being a quantum
But
realm.
I accepted the God of Thunder in the God of Thunder world. In whatever that place is called, Asgard.
Asgard.
And I was like...
No, they establish in that film that there are other realms, and in those realms, Earth is one of them.
But what bounds the entire universe together is quantum physics. It's not just like this realm you go to, a place you go to.
The Marvel Cinematic Universe. This is not the same universe.
It's still Earth. It's still the same planet.
Doesn't matter. They even told you in the films what happened in 2012, 2013, 2014.
Yeah.
That's what happened. We watched history today in that universe.
Yeah, I know I'm being a little jerk. It just irks me a little bit. And it goes back on my point what I was saying before about like I don't like the kind of little bits of plot holes with time travel. That bother me.
There is no thing that you can make in time travel that doesn't somehow have a plot hole.
Yeah, but there are ways of doing it where, once again, it's all about consequence. With time travel, my thing is like, I don't mind you doing time travel. I don't mind you fucking it up. Because time travel is, other than going forward in time, we don't have a way of doing that. So...
Well, except in the quantum realm.
Shut up! But if you're gonna go with the time travel thing, I'm okay with most things as long as you have consequences for your actions. If you go through time, there's got to be some version of that. You can't just do it willy-nilly. And that's what they were kind of talking about. Well, no, they weren't, because they're talking about shrinking into the quantum realm and then coming out of the other end. It just, I don't know. I would have liked, like with the Thor hammer, that would have changed the course of history. That one action, not the talking to the mum, that could have potentially not changed.
They could have made it funny though. Like they could have had something
in like 2 years later. It's like hammer.
Where's my
Where the fuck? Yeah, it could have. Yeah, no, they could have very much done that. But like, I feel like it was a little bit. It could have been just a little bit more risky, And also they were talking about how like. Let's go back to consequences. I really thought this movie did consequences pretty well. Like I didn't feel it too much.
Yeah.
But looking back upon the movie, when they went and they had that issue with Stark Tony Stark, sorry, Iron Man and Ant-Man failing at getting the Tesseract, then they were like, oh, we'll just go more in time and get, like, it's like the Inception rule, right? We just go deeper dream and then a deeper dream. Though I think Inception did it really well, by the way, but it's just funny that you can just click your fingers and do that. It's like, arguably, then why the fuck can you just keep doing that? You know, where's the limit there?
Oh, no. They said if it didn't succeed, they were stuck.
If they didn't get more of those fucking things, then it would have been stuck. But arguably, they could have done that again and done it, or whatever. They could have found another point where that shit existed or whatever.
No, they couldn't have.
Because that was the first time.
You can only do one. They can only do one more, was what they said.
Well,
in
yeah,
any direction.
I know that they only had, because each one of those little things was like one jump, and each of them had enough to go in and out again, and then they went in and then they fucked up, and then they needed to go in deeper with the one thing, and if they didn't get any more refills, they wouldn't come back out.
Yeah.
So that was the premise, and that was okay, but it just, I don't know, it lowered the consequences because they could have taken that jump anyway. And arguably, they didn't think of it. Arguably, it wasn't, like, it wasn't that big of a deal. But it still makes me, it just does a little bit in my brain that's like, I don't like that.
I don't know. I feel like the moment before they went in, like, if there was enough, like, there was enough tension, and Tony Stark looked, like, scared and pissed off about going.
Yeah, I get it. Can I just make one more point?
Oh, no. It's about time.
No, it is.
Oh, God.
5 years later. Do you remember that bit in the film?
Yeah.
That was fucking so ridiculous. I get the 5 in the years, but it's just like when they did the later, I was like, dude, just we know it's, I guess it could be 5 years before. Like, I don't know, that was just...
I think, like, I think that, yeah, I agree, but I think also at the same time that we weren't in the target audience for that. Like, I think Marvel nutheads were in the target audience for that, of like, oh, what the fuck are they going to do now? Because I didn't expect them to get to Thanos so quickly. I didn't expect them to fail a second time.
That was cool, by the way.
Yeah, and that was clever, right? Like,
I like that he was like, I've destroyed them. It's all over.
I am inevitable.
Yeah.
Like, they had to give you that idea that to make the stakes pay off later on, even though, there's just no way that it was going to happen. They had to leave you with the idea that, you cannot, doesn't matter what you do, time is time, and it plays out the same way. It plays out to the same end in however many different ways it does. So, I think... I
mean, if I were to be, once again, I really enjoyed the film. I thought it had really... I much preferred it to Infinity War.
Oh, it was like...
It was awesome.
Yeah.
But I will say that, like, it could have been ballsier. In that, like, you could have been, like... It could have just been a succession of failures. And take out that whole army at the end. But, like, it could have been they didn't make it back. Like, one of the stones didn't come back, or Thanos managed to figure that out like he did, and he managed to, like, find a way to, like,
I think
fuck up the plan, and, like...
There was just a lot of fan payoff and servicing and stuff like that happening.
Of course.
It was really that. It's like they were sort of sitting there going, people are going to expect a battle. People are going to expect us to show a zillion characters together and for someone to say Avengers Assemble.
Yeah.
There were things that were on the shopping list that they had to tick off, and that...
Because each one was a dollar sign that they would have gotten in the box office.
No. I actually don't think that that's cynical, right? I think with this film, you can instantly make $1 billion just by it being what it is, right? I don't think they need to do anything other than release a film that was the end of this series, and they would instantly get $1 billion.
Yeah,
so
right.
I genuinely actually don't think that. I really do think that, like, Feige and all the rest of them who were in charge were going through a shopping list of what fans would want to see. I do think that, because there is no financial justification for anything, because you just, by default, you were going to make a fuck ton of money.
Yeah. Even if it was a flop, it would have made its money back, because people would have fucking seen it.
Yeah, I think people just would have seen it for the same reason we saw it, just to see, how does this franchise end? Or how does this
part of the franchise
version, how does that end? And presumably, I don't know what they're going to do. Are they going to have a black Captain America now? Are they going to have,
That would be cool.
they're going to have
Captain Marvel have a whole thing.
Captain Marvel have a whole thing. Obviously, like Spider-Man in that trailer, there was, it's like the world needs new Iron Man. And are we going to have, whatever the character's name, but she was made the Queen of Asgard, right? Are we going to have that? Are we going to have... Are we going to have the next Guardian of the Galaxy have Thor in it?
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, we know that he definitely works in that dynamic, right? Like, they played off each other really well in...
that was such a great
Infinity
scene.
War.
Another scene that they took time with, too, which I thought was great. They allowed it to go on.
allowed it to be a funny, properly enjoyable scene.
Yeah, because that could have been a total bust. They could have cut that faster and it would have been...
Yeah.
That was the long pause. Is that
just how he looks at him at the very end, of just like, I am going to knife you.
Not even that. It's the I am in charge.
Yeah.
I'm actually
But
in
I
charge.
felt like it was stronger than that. I felt like it was like, I am in charge and I will knife you.
Yeah,
Like, it was, And so just, he's such a wonderful character. I do hope it's not the end for Chris Hemsworth being Thor. I think that's a fun... I think it's
Ragnarok
awesome
proved
thing.
that there's more to Thor than there can be more. Like, keep going.
Yeah, and I think that Guardians of the Galaxy, God, I fucking hope he is, because I don't like the Guardians of the Galaxy, so
Yeah,
it would be
telling me that.
fucking sweet if Thor was in
I loved as well Captain America's version.
Oh, yeah.
I thought that was really sweet. Like, give him some respite. I was
That was a perfect ending for him. And as soon as he was getting in the time machine, I was like, he's going to stay. He's not coming back.
I knew that something was going to happen. I thought the first thing in my head was like, this would be really cool if he comes back and he's all fucked up. Like, he's just been in like a crazy fight, and it's because like the next Marvel movie is going to come out and it's got something to do with what he just did. I liked that surprised me. I was like, huh? And then as soon as I saw him on the bench, I was like, oh.
I thought that there was going to be something carved into a tree, or, you know what I mean? Like, I thought there'd be something like that. I didn't expect him to be that old. And I would say that's possibly the most successful thing in this entire franchise, has been communicating Captain America, Steve Rogers feels lost in his time, and he longs constantly for the love of his life, with whom he missed sharing his life. I think that's actually just about, in terms of the emotional stuff, I think that is just about the most successful aspect of the entire franchise, is that there's always been this sadness to Captain America, and I think that Chris Evans has really allowed that to be present all the time, in that, it's not just that he's a nice guy. It's like the way that he interacts with women. It's not just that he's a gentleman, in terms of his time. He is not interested in anyone else.
Yeah.
He can't love another
Other than his own butt.
Yeah, other than his own butt. And so I think that for that to have a payoff was really, really beautifully done, because as I said, I really think that is the most successful emotional aspect of the entire franchise, has been his floating through, and he's just doing what he believes is right, because not just because he has nothing else to do, but he has nothing else to do.
Everything he has is in the past.
Exactly, yeah, and he's out of his time, and then for him to have a second chance and to go back and to do that, I definitely thought he wasn't coming back, but I didn't expect him to be sitting on the bench. That really surprised me.
Yeah,
and I loved that they Saving Private Ryan him at the very end with he says, "Are you going to tell me about her?" And he says, "No, I don't think so."
I don't remember that bit in the movie.
In Avengers?
No, Saving Private Ryan.
Oh, there's like an almost identical bit. The Matt Damon's character, Private Ryan, tells this, like, the story of the last time that he saw all of his now dead brothers alive. This was the last time that we were all together. He tells this quite long story. Captain Miller had previously said, when he's thinking of his wife, he's thinking of her like outside cutting the roses and stuff like that. So he tells this long story of everything, and then he goes, so tell me about your wife and the flowers, and he goes, no, that's just for me.
Yeah,
and he just stares off.
Yeah.
And
yeah, that's actually really sweet. That's sweet on so many levels.
Fucking, I love Saving Private Ryan. And so that was so beautifully done in this film as well. Like basically the same emotional beat of it's like that belongs to me because that's my most precious, joyous. Like what is he even supposed to say anyway? It's like every dream he ever had has come true. You know.
Yeah.
He got to, and that was an interesting thing that's how they ended the film too. You know.
Yeah, that was it, wasn't it? There was just the hugging and dancing, and then that was it.
But finally, he was at peace. You know, Tony Stark was at peace, and that's the thing. It's like Tony Stark was either going to die like that or get himself killed in an accident doing something experiment. You know what I mean? It's like. As she said, you know, you can rest now. We'll be okay. And it's that thing of like you kind of think about it. It's pretty inevitable. You just sort of think like, how does this character get written out? And you just go, well,
and that's what she said to him in the couch in the house. It's like, you know, you've got this idea. You're not going to rest until you've seen it through.
Yeah.
You know, if there's a chance, you're not going to like this is your destiny. This is the way you are, and he did that till his very end.
Yeah, and I think I do think that's another thing that was, again, I just feel that sort of the hard punch of it in Iron Man 3 was really poorly done in my opinion, but I do think that they gave a sense of why he's so driven, you know, throughout all the films. Is that? Well, I mean, initially, right, in the first movie, it's that thing of he gets attacked and then the last thing he sees, I think, before he gets knocked out is...
the box of stuff.
No, it's a bomb. It's like, boom, and it says Stark. And then he goes to the... When he's imprisoned, you know, he sees that there's a lot of Stark Industries things all over the place. And so he learns firsthand what it is to be a victim of his own company. Mm. So that is definitely the foundation of it. He realizes, no, you need to help humanity, not pretend that you're helping it by protecting it from itself. You know, you need to stop killing people because it's bad. And then, you know, that becomes his thing, is that I cannot protect you by putting weapons in the hands of all the nations, but I can help you by being the single point at which protection can be found, right? I can protect you by being the person who does that.
Because you can trust me. Like, I can trust me. I can't trust anyone else.
You know, yeah. And I think, like, it's kind of like, you know, I loved shows like ER and, you know, a bunch of Scrubs, not all of it. But one of the things I always think about with doctors is, like, I always wonder, you know, when they go home at night, right? It's like... How do they clock off when they know that if they were just one more set of hands back at the hospital, like, by them not being there, people might die.
Yeah.
By their absence. And so I think that that's kind of what...
MASH does that really well.
Yeah. Oh, totally, right? MASH does that beautifully with Hawkeye. Like, and it's a bit of that God plot complex type of, you know, arrogance. But I think that... And you can't think that way, right? Like, if you do become a doctor and you work in a hospital... You just can't think people will die,
and you will go crazy,
and you will go insane if you. And so I think that Tony Stark stumbles into this place of essentially being Earth's doctor, you know, and that's where I think it is, and I think that they do it well. Where he's obsessed. It's beyond his arrogance and his narcissism. It's like it's beyond that. It's actually just this. He's so scared if he stops for a minute that everything will fall to shit. But again, the issue with that is that when he's not in the films, it gets undermined, you know, by as we've discussed in previous things, like, you know, in Ant-Man, it's like, why does it get to the point where the guy's going to build an ant-size army to fucking take over the world? Why can't it just be a small stakes thing? Because I feel like Iron Man would show up.
Yeah.
You know? So they did undermine themselves all along the way, but I do think that overall, you know, I really hope they learned a lot from this, from this 10 years, 11 years.
Yeah.
I really hope that they've learned a lot of those things. I hope they learned a lot from this movie and that you can actually spend a lot of time on the emotional content and actually, but I think they'll only see that within the context of 11 years.
Yeah.
So, I think that they'll see that within percentage of screen time of, the 20-something films. But maybe they will. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what Spider-Man is like. I'm a bit disappointed that it's going. And I don't think it's avoidable, right? Like, I'm just a bit disappointed it's going from friendly neighborhood Spider-Man to, turned up to 11 so quickly. It would have been nice to see sort of one more intermediate film before he's like super fucking be all over the place. And that's exactly
he might spend the whole movie avoiding what's his name?
Yeah, fuck. What is that guy's name?
Jeez,
I feel like it starts with Z.
No. Oh,
it's gonna drive me crazy. Anyway,
Samuel Jackson, right? You're thinking the same person?
No, but yes, okay. I thought you were going to talk. Well, actually, kind of yes, because Samuel L. Jackson is the guy that takes him to the dude that Jake Gyllenhaal's playing. So kind of, yes,
which is fine. I don't mind as long as Jake Gyllenhaal isn't a world stopper. You know what I mean? Like I and that's right. That's what it looks. Yeah,
there was a lot of like big CGI people doing things, but we can't judge it before it comes out.
Yeah,
I just hope that they do something transition-y with it that's good.
No, I just want to play the Spider-Man video game, which I don't own.
Looks sick.
Yeah, rookie mistake. All right, we did it.
Yeah.
After a year.
After 11 years.
We managed to do it. Oh, I really want to see what happens next. I want to know what the next 5 years is in the Marvel world and see if they actually do some ballsy shit.
Yeah, I really, really do hope that they do some interesting things, because I think that if it was me and I was the producer and I was looking back at this body of work, and I actually thought about this during the funeral section, right, when they did that shot of looking at sort of each of the franchises standing next to each other, and I just thought, man, if you were the producer of this, Paul Feig, you'd be like, fuck me, am I proud of what I've put together, right, and rightfully so. For whatever my opinion of the individual films, like rightfully so. And I think you'd be looking at it and going, I would just hope that an element of you would be thinking, what could I do better?
Yeah. How do we?
And not thinking about visual effects, not thinking about stakes being upped, not thinking about that. What could I do better? And I really think that the first hour of this film is the answer to that question. That definitely they can do it. And we knew that, right? Like, all of these actors are actors who have demonstrated in their careers that they absolutely have the chops to do what they did in this film. Yeah. And more.
Way more.
This is for a lot of them, it was sort of like a narrow band of things. And so I just that's what I would hope for. I would just hope to see more of that, more of the heart, and more stakes related to personal stakes that don't end up in I'm gonna fight a zillion of
CGI
these monsters or this or that. It was fitting for this film, absolutely, but I just want to see. That's what ruined Ant-Man, that for me, that's what ruined Ant-Man, was just this stupid stakes when they'd really spent so much time in that film establishing this is a man who doesn't want to risk going to prison because he has a daughter that he cares about. So we know, what does he care about and what needs to be threatened? His daughter. And they do threaten her at the very end, but it's in the context of like fighting another Ant-Man person who is like, wants to build an army to take over the fucking planet. Why? Why can't it literally just be, you've taken everything from me, I'm going to go and kill your
personal story,
your daughter? And it's like, oh no, I need to stop you. Like, I just don't, that's what they need to get to. I think they need to get more in touch with that.
Totally. We'll see. Fingers freaking crossed.
Yeah. We know that they're capable of it, but probably not, to be honest, but I mean, I know they're capable. But probably won't see it happen as well. No. But I think that there should be some analysis and reflection from inside Marvel because of how, a lot of people say one of the things I think that is actually important about this franchise is that, and myself included in this, is that people say like they've been a huge part of this, downfall of cinema. And what I'll say is, in the 11 years that this franchise has been ongoing, I've seen some of the best films I've ever seen in my life in terms of dramas and lower budget stuff. So, film is very much healthy and very much alive, and amazing stuff is being made. It's just not going into the cinema. But I think that there should be some reflection in terms of how powerful they are. They've managed to fill the cinemas and people's expectations and wants of what they expect to see when they go to the cinema. They've shifted that, and I think that they have been. One of the things that's quite interesting is I'm trying to remember the name of the YouTube channel. I feel really terrible that I can't remember it off the top of my head. Great YouTube channel about filmmaking. It's going to drive me nuts. Anyway,
something of a screen.
No, it's not that one.
Lessons of a Screenplay.
No, it's not Lessons from a Screenplay, which is amazing. Anyway, I won't waste the time. Maybe just, if I remember it, just put a link in or something, because I'm going to be... I wanted to acknowledge before repeating a point that he made. He actually made a whole video about, the death of cinema and Superman movies being a big part of it. And the thing that's quite interesting is he's like, what the point that he makes is, look actually at what's happened. And yes, franchises have taken over, but this whole thing of like cinematic universes destroying cinema, how many successful cinematic universes do we have? Paramount tried to do one. DC, continues to do one that it has been repeatedly slammed and resulted in subpar films. Marvel have been the only ones who have actually been successful, and you can't put Star Wars in the same thing because there's always kind of going to be Star Wars. But, Jurassic Park has attempted to do it, but the second film is a fucking, insane nutcase, terrible thing. And, so I do think it's kind of interesting, right? It's like they are actually the exception to the rule, and yet people say that these things have destroyed cinema. It was just an interesting point of view that he put forward, and I think that that it's a valid point, right? Is that cinema has definitely changed over the last 11 years, but people need to separate cinema from film, because I think that when George Lucas and Spielberg, were about 8 years ago or something, they did a talk together at, I think, the University of California. And one of the things that George Lucas said was, 20 years from now, it's going to cost you $50 to go to the cinema, and it's going to be packed technologically with experiences you cannot have at home. It's going to be beyond the big screen TV. It's going to be beyond the 5.1 surround sound or the 7.1 surround sound or any of that stuff. It's going to be a really expensive night out that's going to be crazy, because every other film experience you'll be able to have at home. And I think that they're right. I think that it's a thing of I do not need. I don't. It's not even need. I don't even want to be in a cinema when I go and see a $40 million, historical drama thing. I don't want to be in the cinema when I don't enjoy it. I want to buy the Blu-ray, or I want to watch it on Stan, or I want to watch it on Netflix, or I want to buy it and or rent it or whatever on Google. I want to watch it in high quality in my house. With my, what I have rigged up as a home cinema, and enjoy it without interruption.
Without the sound of kids crying, or the volume being set too low, or...
Without those things, yeah.
Oh my God, that was so frustrating to me.
It was really frustrating, and I just continually am reminding myself of, at least, there's a reason why they were at the same session that we were at.
Yeah.
It's because they've been
considerate enough.
They've been considerate enough to not bring their children to the larger sessions where people get, and it's probably the only time of sanity that they can get to go and watch this film. And it was cool stuff.
They were clearly fans.
That mum, mum off to the right, who was there was a mum who was at the cinema, and good on her. She
maybe started crying and being fidgety.
Yeah, and she was rocking around and walking in sort of the entrance exit area, watching
the movie.
She watched an hour and a half or 2 hours of it.
Anyway. She obviously loved
and it was totally. And it's just one of those things of I think there must have been 7 children in the audience, and most of them were babies.
Yeah.
And I for
nothing
the first
against them, by the way. I don't actually.
Oh no. It's objectively annoying, but but also I'm sorry, but
Can't blame.
you can't. They're fucking human beings. The parents,
Yeah.
people who are allowed to go and do the things that they want to do. And I was just having a conversation the other day with my mum about this. Actually, like people, as soon as people have kids, sometimes their friends start to
isolate them because of
isolate them because of that. Whereas it's like it doesn't actually make a difference. Just accept that there's a child and they behave in ways that you can't control or expect.
Yeah.
So anyway, I try to just keep that in my mind but the first half of this film, I still had a migraine, and then the painkillers started kicking in for a second. But the first half of when you have a migraine, you can't focus your hearing. So when I have them anyway, so I'm just sort of sitting there going, and then any time that kid off to the right did anything, that's all I could hear. And then I was just like, so I'm just sort of sitting there being like, dude, let these parents have I was trying to be as like zen as possible.
When you have misophonia, it's the same thing. It's like misophonia is like that like whole things that your ears just get focused on certain sounds.
Right.
So and I certainly have that. That's the whole chewing thing with this and everything that I do. Hey, don't move, don't even.
No, that wasn't intentional.
Anyway, but yeah, so for me it was just like. And then what helps with misophonia is if there's a loud enough speakers where I don't have to fucking like listen.
Yeah, that was a quiet session, actually. Anyway.
I was very disappointed. But that's fine. I still enjoyed the film. I just would love to have heard it. If, once again, at home, big screen, crank it the volume up, cuddle up with my girlfriend.
That's it, yeah. And the only time I really go to cinema anymore is... in polar kind of opposite, like this was even an exception, right? Like if we weren't going to do this podcast, I actually would have waited until it was on Stan. And but I either go when I don't give a shit, or when I'm massive, or it's Star Wars, right? I'm epically invested. I have to see this film.
Yeah.
So those are kind of if I really do care about a film, like nowadays when a Spielberg comes out, I wait until it's on Blu-ray and then I buy it and I watch it in my completely
he would hate you saying that. Considering
he would hate me watching it on Netflix.
Yeah.
Sure. But God, why can't you just remain awesome?
Yeah, everyone's got their thing.
Everyone's got their thing. Anyway, but yeah, I just it was good. It was a good experience.
I loved it.
And it was a worth watching on a big fucking screen. Like it was. But yeah, it would have been nicer to walk out with my ears ringing.
Yeah, I agree. I would love to have blocked my ears then rather than trying to listen more carefully. I don't have anything to contribute because that was pretty much everything. It was an Avenger movie. It was probably one of the better ones that I've ever seen. I've got plenty of criticism, but nothing that I would imply like add to the thing. Nothing that didn't have justification. It was an awesome movie. I had a good time.
I did also.
Yeah, definitely better than the Infinity War. I had a much better time watching this than Infinity War.
Yeah.
From experience. Though I wouldn't mind rewatching Infinity War to see.
Yeah, you should. All on Stan, man. Fucking sweet.
Oh, it's on Stan, that's right.
Yeah, the Disney contract.
Yeah. Also might do that. All right, well, thank you very much. We're back. Woo! Release this in like 6 months.
Hurrah.